Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I would like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order at 7:05 for August 22nd. May I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel? Thanks, Mike. Second. Marcy, all in favor? Okay, thank you. So we will be back. This won't take that long, okay? We have 3 interviews, so.
Train.
Hello, everyone. May I have a motion to go into open session? Mike moves. John seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We have Sarah Newman is joining us by, she's on the phone. The first item on our agenda is the First Selectmen's report for August 22nd. Just want to make sure because the date is wrong on this. Okay. Darien Health Department now lists the number of positive COVID cases reported each week. This does not include home testing, rather than positivity percentages like we used to offer. So during the week of August 9th through the 15th, there were 30 COVID cases reported, and that's pretty much in the range that we've seen all summer. Town of Darien officials, staff, and consultants continue to work on completing diligence, reviewing documentation and land records, and seeking to resolve any issues necessary to complete the acquisition of Great Island property. Our due diligence investigations have uncovered issues that must be adequately addressed before the town can take ownership. The town remains excited about the purchase of Great Island and looks forward to finishing its work and closing the transaction as soon as possible. I am confident in the town's ability to address and resolve these issues. The Darien Human Services Department is still accepting gift cards of any amount for their back-to-school program until this Thursday. And this program provides gift cards to students in grades 12 through 4 whose families are eligible for support services. And you can drop off the gift cards in my office or at the Human Services office in room 109. While some communities in Connecticut have moved to stage 3 drought conditions, Darien continues to remain in a stage 2. The 90-day rainfall deficit for Connecticut is pretty high. It's almost 6 inches. That's why we have this drought situation. Fire danger is fluctuating daily between very high and high, and our fire marshal is urging extreme caution when you're using outdoor fire pits or your grills. The Reconnecting Communities pilot program is under review with members of WestCog. The focus of this group will be to consider a potential grant application for improvements along I-95 and Route 7, the corridor in Darien, Norwalk, and Stamford. The Board of Education has been busy preparing for the start of the new school year. Along with the Board of Education administration and staff, members of the school building committees have continued their work over the summer. In particular, I would like to acknowledge the Ox Ridge Elementary School Building Committee. This committee held its first meeting on February 4th of 2019 and has been working for almost 4 years to bring this school to fruition. On behalf of my board and the community, I extend our sincere gratitude for all of the hard work and the dedication the Ox Ridge Building Committee has provided. The doors to all of our schools will open to welcome students back on August 29th. With the return to school, it's important that everybody be particularly cautious when driving in areas where children walk or ride their bikes. And I want to thank our crossing guards who have the important job of helping our students and families navigate the intersections and crosswalks around our school. Last week, Holmes Royal Middlesex Middle School and Town Hall earned the EPA's Energy Star for superior energy performance. placing in the top 25% of buildings nationwide. This is a big deal. Darien is committed to doing its part to protect the environment and public health, and saving energy is just one of the ways that we are accomplishing this. Thank you to the Darien Public Schools Facilities Department, the Darien Public Works Department, and the Advisory Committee on Sustainability for their work on achieving this certification. Our Public Works Department continues to be hard at work. An intersection improvement project has begun at West Avenue and Norotan Avenue. The initial work that you will see now at this stage is the layout and the measurement, paint marks on the road, and some light construction such as cutting vegetation, that type of thing. The heavy effort, excavation, and drainage work will begin in September. Most budgets include $1 million or more of capital to pave over 6 miles of roads in the town of Darien. This year, $1.2 million was budgeted. Paving is typically done in the summer to avoid disrupting schools when the weather is most predictable and when a lot of residents are vacationing. This year, as a result of soaring energy prices during the second quarter and a general disruption in the availability of contractors and their labor pool, the pricing of paving that Darien could contract at soared 25%, which would have reduced the mileage that we could pave by 25%. Our staff saw this as a temporary spike with the industry expected would subside, and it has, but not in time to get the paving completed in August. In order to not disrupt our schools, we plan to reschedule the paving to be done over the spring break, weather permitting, with the balance to be combined with next summer's paving, which would give us better pricing, giving the larger mileage. Our Public Works Department regularly monitors our roads, makes repairs as necessary, and always looks to be financially prudent with our community's tax dollars. I applaud their forward thinking on this. As this is always the case, if a resident sees a dangerous part of a road in need of repair, they should file a message on our website or call the Public Works Department or call my office. Now, a lot of people have remarked on the strips on the road that need repair after utility work is done. And I've asked the Director of Public Works, Ed Gentile, to join us this evening to explain that part of paving.
Thank you. Just a quick note. As we've gone through the last couple of weeks, the prices have dropped even further from the last numbers I've given you. So if you haven't seen them at the gas pumps, they've dropped also. So what's going to happen now is those oil prices for asphalt, they're going to continue and follow the gas prices down. We also got hit with an extra surcharge for trucking for the millings. Our milling price went up about 67% from where it was the year before. So with the hopes, we may not reach where we were before, but with the hopes that we will be able to recapture some of the roads we possibly could have lost if we did the paving now. The work that's being done by the utility companies right now and have been done previously on certain roads, we do require that they settle for a certain amount of time. I do like to have it settle through a freeze and thaw period so that soil can become even more compact underneath. Happens if you do not do that. When you do pave, you will see the longitudinal cracks from where the trench used to be, and then we're back out there patching and milling and paving possibly that lane again in 5 to 6 years. So this is a prudent and best practice approach to this type of work that's being done in the roadways. I do understand I'm taking on more responsibility now to maintain those trenches as we go for the next 6 to 8 months before we pave again. I have gotten the utility companies to come out. They were going to be coming out in September also to touch up the top dressing on the trenches that have been there the longest. Understanding right now that Aquarian's doing work that will not get paved until now July and August because they're just wrapping up the work now. It's not part of the paving schedule for this year. Never was supposed to be done in this August, this July of August. But it will get done next July and next August. Any questions that you may have?
And just so I understand what you're saying is that any needs that develop on the roads, whether it's a resident who reports something or it's related to a trench that's been dug that's not completely paved because we've pulled back on that program, those problems will be addressed, and we have the ability to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And you have enough capacity next summer to double up, if you will, to get the work done with the team and equipment you have?
Oh, we're gonna come December, I'm gonna run the numbers again, and my budget request for FY '24, which is what I'll use to pay for July and August, will bear the weight of whatever the market's going to drive it at.
Well, we'll still have the money from FY '23.
It'll carry over.
It'll carry over.
In April, May, it'll be gone.
Okay.
I'll be doing the paving that I would have done now, still fiscal year '23, but I'll be doing it in April instead.
Got it. Okay.
So Ed, what percentage of what you would have done this year will you do in the spring? Do you know?
With the commodities the way they are right now and the prices dropping back down again, though we've lost about 25, closer to 28% of our roads, I'm hoping to grab half of those back. You know, we lost a mile, 1.4 miles. You know, the price for doing a mile was $240,000. Now it's up at $360. So that weighed heavy on our decision. I understand that people want to see new roadways done. They are tired of driving over the trenches, but part of my responsibility is being, fiscally prudent as I do this work, and I see that spike was temporary. It just happened to come when we pave. So I thought it was in our best interest to wait.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay, thank you, Ed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yesterday, my husband and I enjoyed our time at the new Norotan Heights Fire Department Family Picnic, and we want to thank them for including us. And that's all I have for my first Selectmen's report. Kate?
I don't have a report tonight.
Nope. Okay. So next item on the agenda is board liaison reports. We'll start with Mike.
The Blight Review Board will be meeting on the second Wednesday in September. We did not have an August meeting, so there's nothing to report there. I can advise that an agenda item will be a discussion of adding commercial properties to the Blight jurisdiction, which ultimately would be a further discussion for us and perhaps the RTM, but it's coming up there.
You're starting to talk about that?
Yes.
Is that it, Mike?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, thanks. John?
The IT committee met last Thursday. 3 of our 4 subcommittee leads have been out on holiday, and they had not been able to call their groups to meet. But one did, Holly Schultz, who is in charge of taking a look at ways to make our IT systems more efficient. And her team has met, and they've already got a few ideas they're working on. Everybody is committed to laying out some proposals that we can start to kick around at the September meeting, so I'll report more then.
Okay, September. Okay. Nancy?
Sure. I have 2 reports. First is Oxbridge Building Committee. I'm happy to report that it is, as of July 31st, it was 99% complete, so our kids will be headed into school in the new Oxbridge building, which is very exciting. In conjunction with what Ed said on trucking, we were hoping to have the demo completely done of the back portion of the old building by the time the kids went back into school, and unfortunately we had some issues with removal of some of the older building, which had obviously, it's an old building, so it had some lead and things, and they have to properly remove it. Trucking companies were backlogged tremendously, so they took as much as they can down, and over the course of the next week, they're supposed to be, these trucks from Pennsylvania are supposed to be coming in and taking the remainder of the portion down. So hopefully, when our kids show up on Monday, that old building is completely down, the new building is up, the temporary playground is there. I drove in this afternoon. It is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to be able to step foot in there. The ribbon cutting was postponed until after the students get into the school. That way, students are first to see. And they'll invite, certainly the town and parents to come. As soon as that date is set, I will let the public know so that as many people want to see it. It's exquisite. The pictures that I've seen, it's just exciting and vibrant and bright, and it's going to be a really great environment for our kids to show up next Monday. Second is the Mental Health Task Force. We have been very busy working throughout the summer, which is difficult because there's a lot of people that are participating in this committee, and trying to get everybody to attend these meetings throughout vacation has been difficult. But we have very diligently started what's called a post-vention plan for the town of Darien. Which post-vention plan means that if we do lose someone to suicide or to an untimely death, the town has a policy and a protocol and a way to go about serving the community, both the family individually, any of the healthcare providers, and any of the town who has been affected by this. So we are working on it. We have our first draft. Hopefully by the time we get back to school in a couple of weeks, we will have that ready to go. For many of you who do have students who are attending the Darien High School, or middle school or elementary school, you have received notice that there is a half day on the first day of school, and the reason for that is because there will be training for all of the teachers, all of the administrators, and all of the coaches on post-prevention and recognition. In that training, they're going to be working to help identify high-risk students that are in the classroom. They're going to be identifying kids and being able to put them in giving them services that they may need. And then, heaven forbid, we do have an incident where we do lose another student. It helps the community, and will teach these teachers, administrators, and coaches on how to help serve them. So we are very busy. This committee is really, really, really committed to helping through the tragedies that the town felt over the spring. And another great news, it doesn't happen to be on my agenda, but I had a fantastic experience today. I was invited by Representative Wood to go up to Hartford. My children are fourth generation descendants of the 29th Infantry, which is a black infantry out of New Haven. My husband's great-great-great-grandfather served as a Union soldier, and they did an unveiling of the flag this afternoon. So my children were able to go up, they were able to have their pictures taken, they were able to see stories about how wonderful it is that their great-grandfather served for the Union Army. So it was a great day. Today was a wonderful day.
Yeah. So the training is half day for all of the schools?
Training is half day for all three of the schools, all three of the high school, middle school, and elementary school. All the teachers and staff will be fully trained on this.
Wow, that's terrific. That's a great idea.
Exciting.
Yeah. Okay, if that's it
Sarah.
for board
Sarah.
liaison. Oh, Sarah. Sarah, do you have anything for
Hi.
Thriving?
No, our next meeting for the Henley Homes and Royal Building Committee will be this Wednesday. It will be a special meeting. Our last meeting was August 3rd, so it was before our last Board of Selectmen meeting, so I have no new news to report. Thank you.
And Sarah, are you every 2 weeks now on the meetings?
No, and we need to have on our agenda for Wednesday night's meeting to set this schedule. Was difficult with vacations this past month, but we will be aiming to set a regular schedule going forward.
Okay, all right. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Okay, if that's it for liaison, right, Kate?
Yep.
You didn't miss anyone? Okay. Next up is public comment. And I will ask you to come up and introduce yourself and give your address. And first I have David Martin.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, David.
My name's David Martin. I live at 15 Libby Lane. You all know that I serve on the Board of Finance, but my comments tonight are solely my comments as a resident and not reflective of any views or opinions or work on the Board of Finance. First, I'd like to commend the Board of Selectmen for recognizing the need for a community values statement and for adopting one that I hope all Darien residents believe in and support. The community values statement says that Darien's sense of community is rooted in residents who respect one another, welcome diversity in all facets of life, and are engaged in our larger society, that we value equity, fairness, inclusivity, and dignity for all, and we insist on a culture of respect and recognize that words and actions matter. To me, those words send a very strong message that everyone is welcome here in Darien and that we respect and value each and every person for who they are, as they are. Now, we've all heard the expression that actions speak louder than words, and we know that people often say one thing and do another. We learn that watching a person's actions often tells us more about who they really are and what they really believe in than what they say. The proposed Town of Darien policy on display of flags raises concerns that our actions are not consistent with our stated community values. I've not yet heard why there's a need for a policy, if the town has received so many requests that a formal policy is necessary, or honestly, if we're simply reacting to complaints received regarding flying the pride flag this past year. Displaying the pride flag is completely consistent with the community values statement of respect and inclusivity for all. If there's a need for a policy, can it be drafted to allow the Board of Selectmen in its sole discretion to approve flying flags that it deems consistent with our stated town values and those that support the men and women of our armed forces? Darien's community values statement says that we recognize words and actions matter. Words that are not supported by our actions have no meaning. I implore the Board of Selectmen to table the vote or to vote no on the proposed policy on display of flags as currently worded, and if needed, to draft a policy that will allow the approval of flags that represents our stated values.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, David. Next up, we have Bobby Callie. Okay.
My name is Bobby Callaghy, and my address is 8 Delafield Island Road. Dear Board of Selectmen, as a student and kid, growing up in Darien has been a mixed bag of emotions. I have always loved the community feel of the town and how tight-knit families and friends are, but we still do live in a bubble. We're a community filled with affluent neighborhoods, a community where being being different isn't always accepted. While it sounds like a cliche, kids in Darien still face comments about who they are or how they look. This is not to say we haven't come far. Recently, Darien's Pride event was an amazing showing of how supportive our community can be. The time was spent with laughter and an overall amazing feeling for kids still looking for a glimpse of acceptance. Now, fast forward 2 months, and this same feeling of acceptance is in jeopardy again. Now, our community is deciding whether we place a ban on all non-government flags being flown on government property. I have seen that out of all the non-government flags, the Pride flag has flown the most in Darien over the last year or so. Reading through a draft of the proposal, it's clear that you would like to follow the United States and state of Connecticut's provisions governing the display of the flags. And frankly, from my understanding, this point is untrue. We have seen that our state and our capital fly important non-governmental flags, for example, the Pride and Juneteenth flags. It can be said that kids my age and younger look up to people in power, such as you all, for visibility. If we can't see ourselves in a community, what's the point of preaching acceptance? Thank you and have a nice night.
Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Guller, 10 Walmsley Road. I am speaking here on behalf of the Darien Pride Committee, many of whom are here with us tonight. One of the reasons we're all here today is because we believe in the importance of equity and inclusion. We are here to demonstrate to everyone in our community, especially our children, that we will support each other no matter what we look like, where we are from, or who we love. Those were the words of First Selectman Monica McNally, which she used to welcome the hundreds of town residents to Darien's first Pride celebration on June 12th. Ms. McNally continued, saying, "Let's let this event reflect who we are." So who are we in Darien? Last month, the Board of Selectmen, as we heard from David, approved a community values statement which says, in part, we value equity, fairness, inclusivity, and dignity for all. We insist on a culture of respect and recognize that words and actions matter. Is this who we are? The proposed display of flag policy as written would ban flying the pride flag on town property, denying our queer youth the comfort of knowing that they are supported and accepted by Darien's leaders. Is that who we are? The Darien Pride Committee chose to unite the town under the banner of the pride flag with one mission: to show our love, to show who we are. We asked residents to show love by displaying a pride flag yard sign, and there were on hundreds of yards. We asked businesses to show their love by raising pride flags, and we've never seen the post road look more colorful. We asked elected officials from all parties to join us at our pride celebration, and they showed their love by showing up. Perhaps the most meaningful displays of who we are were the pride flags that flew at Pear Tree Point Beach and Town Hall. Those symbols told our LGBTQ youth that the leadership of their hometown welcomes them. We ask that you remember the brave young women who testified before the Board of Ed last fall. They spoke of the harassment, threats, and physical violence toward queer students at DHS. We're especially mindful of the moment when, through her tears, one of these strong kids begged the adults in the room, please don't make this political. We've said that flying these flags was our opportunity to show our queer youth that the grown-ups have their backs. Darien Pride is unwavering in our commitment to them. We ask the Board of Selectmen to show the same commitment by rejecting the proposed policy. We applaud our first Selectman for her words at our Pride celebration, and we echo them again as we ask that this proposed ban be wholly rejected. Let's raise the Pride flag and show our love in Darien. Let this reflect who we are. Thank you.
Next, we have Abigail Hornstein.
Hi. I'm going to broaden this a little bit. First, thank you for this opportunity to
Abigail,
come and...
just give us your address.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All good. All good.
Abigail Hornstein, 17 Edmund Street, and I'm speaking on my personal behalf tonight, although I am a member of the DTC, the Democratic Town Committee. Thank you for this opportunity to comment briefly on the proposed regulations. I suspect that there are very few beliefs that all of us in this town share. Here are two that I think are nearly universally held. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the American dream. The proposed regulation undermines both of those completely. Why would you do so? The Board of Selectmen has the opportunity now to reject this policy that actively discriminates. For example, each branch of the United States military has its own official flag. Why do you want to discriminate against each of them? What do each of you have against the Army, the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force? Why do we want children in this town who dream of entering the military to be told that their pursuit of happiness is not supported by this town's Board of Selectmen? What if that is their American dream? You would be undermining them. Or what if it is another person's American dream to simply live in a town where children can grow up to do and be whatever they want, even if it is not what they might want for themselves or their own children? Your proposed policy discriminates against all of them. But suppose that child's goals are much more modest. They simply want to grow up in this town, perhaps have a job in this town, perhaps raise a family in this town. Again, what you will be telling them is this town only honors centuries-old institutions that have widely recognized logos. And yes, if you were to Google logos, the United States flag shows up on a list of the top logos worldwide. So, if this town wants to embrace this policy, you will be announcing clearly that you are rejecting innovation and creativity in favor of centuries-old institutions, and that people can pursue happiness only in ways that were recognized centuries ago. This ban is also a clear way for you to say that the American dream must be what it was in the 18th century. Do you really want Darien to be back in the 18th century? I don't think so. So if we implement this ban, this regulation in this town, what you will be doing is sending the world 5 unmistakable messages This town does not believe that everyone should have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This town does not believe in the American dream. Number 3, this town does not honor the rich and valuable history of the branches of the United States military. Number 4, this town does not value innovation. Number 5, this town does not value creativity. I really hope that you reject this regulation because I want to believe that this town has loving and kind people who live in it. And you cannot pass this regulation while being a loving and kind person. Please do not endorse hypocrisy. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Next up, we have Erin Patterson.
Hello, thank you for having me. Erin Patterson, 251 Norotan Avenue. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I will, gladly. It's nice to be here and to be in this audience and in my fellow Darien Pride Committee planning members. Again, we thank you for welcoming us to create this celebration and bring this pride to Darien. I will speak on behalf of my daughter, Ellie Patterson, who is going into 6th grade at middle school. And she was texting me earlier today and she said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "I'm going to this meeting." I explained why. And she was so confused as to why this would even be on the agenda. She said, "Well, Mom, we had Darien Pride. It's a thing. It's what this town wants." And by the show up that we had at our Pride celebration in June, it is what Darien wants. Broadly speaking, of course. What it did for my daughter was show that she belonged here and she's accepted, which is not her experience on a day-to-day basis. She's, like I said, going into middle school, in the elementary school. She's part of the LGBTQ+ community. She is proud of that fact. And she has definitely experienced adversity, threats, teasing, and she doesn't want to see that as part of her future here. And so for her, flying a flag for pride is literally that. It's pride. It's pride to be who she is, part of Darien, and everyone in Darien should want that pride and to be proud of being in this community that will allow flying flags, pride or any branch of the military government or other such flags to represent that we are proud to be Darien residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. And next we have Alicia Johnson.
Hello. Hi, Alicia Johnson, 89 Raymond Street, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I speak for myself personally. I don't have any direct information that this proposal is actually directed at the pride flag in particular. No one has told me that, so I'm not sure if that's what's going on. I'm a longtime student of history, ancient, modern, and contemporary. And so when I heard about this measure, the first thing I thought was flags. Weird. Because the last few years we've seen flags and symbols just taking on a whole new emotional dynamic in our country. And so for me, I asked the question, why? What is going on with having any sort of regulation about flags and symbols in the shape of flags in our town? If it is about the pride flag, I don't think that's a good idea. If it's about something else, I would really like to know what it's about, because like so many other people in this town who have said that politics should stay local, I agree with that statement. And if we start letting ourselves be pulled and drawn into places that are not really local conversations. I think it's a great disservice to especially the young people in our town. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So that's all I have on my list, but if there's anyone here that does want to speak, that's not on the list, we have time if you want to step forward. Sure. Just give us your name and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Amy Daniels. I live at 83 Locust Hill Road, and I wasn't planning on talking tonight, but I think it's so important to acknowledge what Ms. Minnick acknowledged tonight about our Youth Mental Health Task Force. The situation of what's going on with Darien youth and Darien families in general, and how critical this time right now is. When we talk about suicide, I hope that you all know the risk is 4 times more likely for an LGBTQ plus student or youth to commit suicide than it is for anyone else. And I think that that should, right now, play an important role. We are trying to bring our community together. We are trying to come out of COVID and deal with the many issues that this pandemic has brought, but that we were seeing in youth mental health prior to that. And I have to ask you guys, are we really trying to disenfranchise people that already feel othered and already feel like we've made such great strides in the efforts that this community has brought? And this does say who we are and what we stand for, and this is a time that we need to gather everyone closer. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to say a few words? Sure.
Hi. Very briefly, I'm Armel Jacobs. I'm at 12 Fitch, and I just wanted to speak to the numbers of people here. I'm not sure what the camera is showing, and I know that there are a lot of people watching this, and I wanted to say that every seat here is full of people who support the LGBTQ plus community in Darien, Connecticut. And I'll just add that I think I speak for all of us, or all of us here who want to come up and follow me, that I echo and support the words of David, Bobby, Dan, Abigail, Erin, Alicia, and Erin. And Amy. And Amy. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay. Our next item on the agenda is discuss and take action on a request for a special appropriation for the Park and Rec Program account. And Kate is going to explain this.
Sure. A couple of years ago, we changed our policy regarding the Park and Rec programs. They had been accounted for in a contra fund where the revenues and expenses were all in one account and balanced each other out. We moved them into the general fund with a budgeted revenue item and an expenditure item. What we have found over the last 2 years is that the amount of revenues and expenditures generated by these programs has wildly exceeded our estimates and our expectations. So we have taken in about $550,000 more in revenue than we estimated in the budget. And we've also expended about, I think, the same amount more than we had budgeted. So what we need to do is a special appropriation basically to raise both sides of the budget to accommodate this change. So you need to approve this to send it to the RTM for them to act on in September. Next year, you might remember as part of this year's budget, we moved everything into a special revenue fund. It's on its own now, and it will not have to go through this kind of process again, regardless of how much money they generate through the programs. So this is a really good thing that our programs are doing so well.
Okay. Any questions for Kate?
No? Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Kate, what is the balance left in this account after this transfer to zero out the expense count?
We won't be zeroing it out. We're actually raising the budget to accommodate the amount that we spent. So we're not moving from one to another. We're actually increasing both sides. And if you can see my hands moving, talking with my hands. So we've spent, we budgeted 517,000, and we've ended up taking in and spending over $1 million.
So that's why the net change of these two numbers is 0. Because you're raising both.
Well, the net is 0. We're raising them both by an equal amount. I'm not sure if do you understand what we're saying?
I do understand, but I thought we were transferring from program fees to program expenses and transferring from revenue over to expenses. But
No.
So you're saying that you're raising both?
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? No? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the special appropriation for the Parks and Rec program account in the amount of $563,232? Mike moves. Second. Marcy seconds. All in favor? All right, terrific. Thank you.
Sarah?
Sarah?
Aye, yes,
Okay.
aye, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, next item on the agenda is to discuss and take action on a proposed policy regarding display of flags on municipal property. So first I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. It's great to see all of you come out, and we really appreciate it. Some of you have asked about how the creation of this proposed flag policy came about. On March 4th, I wrote an email to you, my fellow board members, regarding flying the Ukrainian flag at Town Hall after I was approached by a resident. Since Darien did not have a flag policy, I asked my staff to look at other towns for direction, and this draft is based on that research. In October of 21, by unanimous vote, the Supreme Court ruled against the city of Boston for refusing to fly a religious flag after having allowed numerous other flags to fly in City Hall. Boston had no flag policy in place at the time. The city was determining which flags could fly. This was the primary basis for the court's decision. So without a policy, we leave the town unprotected against lawsuits. Our town attorney, Wayne Fox, plans to look at other policies and review cases related to flag policies. In the meantime, he is here tonight to give us some guidance. Wayne?
Good evening. Nice to see you all and be with you. Nice to see so many citizens of our community come out and speak on an issue such as this. The case itself is a very interesting case on a very interesting topic. The first reason I found it to be of interest is the fact that you have 9 individuals, very different people, very different justices, having very different opinions, can come together to write a unanimous decision. When you look at it a little more closely, the issues itself can become somewhat complex. You end up dealing with issues of what is government speech, how that is defined, what that means, what is private speech, how that is developed, what that means. You get into issues of freedom of religion, you get into issues of freedom of speech, you get into issues of the Establishment Clause. So there are very complex topics when you look at this issue. The Supreme Court is always very sensitive in a freedom of speech type case to say that we're not setting any general rule for you. We're going to look at each case differently, each case specially, and then make a decision on that particular case as they did here. My recommendation to you is that we ought to take a hard look at the topic. We ought to spend some time studying it. We ought to spend some time looking at the decisions that are also cited in the Supreme Court decision. We ought to look at what other communities are doing. We ought to look at what other states are doing. And only then, when we have exhausted our need for knowledge, will we be in a position, will you be in a position to make a final determination.
Okay. Thank you. Mike?
I've read the decision as well, and I agree in part and I disagree in part because I don't believe it's all that complex. When they speak in a 9-0 voice, it's typically clear as a bell, and I think that is the case here. The Supreme Court is not saying that there's a problem with the expression of flags. What they're saying is the city of Boston did not take enough care in creating their policy. What they also say is that you can create that policy, and they cite to a policy. They cite to the city of San Jose, who has a clear policy on the use of flags, and it's instructive. And the Supreme Court said this in its decision. The first sentence of the San Jose policy is, the city flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public. That's that town saying that we, the government, are going to speak through our flags. It's not a First Amendment forum. The Supreme Court said that in Boston, they let it come one, come all. And so when a religious flag came up and wanted to be flown, then they were really not protecting, or they were not promoting religion, because they had already forfeited the flag, because they had allowed 50 different flags over 284 ceremonies.
They had really done nothing.
Right.
Is what Justice Breyer said.
So what they're saying is you can make a judgment as to what flags you want to fly, but then you're going to be subject to the ballot box. And specifically, they said the Constitution therefore relies first and foremost on the ballot box, not on rules against viewpoint discrimination, to check the government when it speaks. So I think the path is clear. We have the ability to create our own policy that will allow for pride flags and others. And to the extent that the voters like or dislike the flags that we fly, they have the ability to replace one or all of us. And that's the way the Constitution works. It's the way that the Supreme Court has interpreted it. So I think we should be looking at policies of communities that allow for flags that honor things like the military or pride or blue wave cheerleaders for winning a state championship. So I think it's really incumbent on us to work hard to do what our community is speaking to us about. It's maybe a heavier lift than a complete ban, but sometimes we have to do the heavier thing. Sometimes we have to do the more difficult thing. And I hope as we go forward and we have these discussions, I hope, number one, that they're not prolonged, and number two, that we come to a policy that allows for the expressions that we've heard tonight.
I agree with you that the decision is well written in the sense that it is understandable. I think what Justice Breyer was saying to Boston was, you want to control it. You want to control over what you call government speech, but you've done nothing about that for several years. You put up anything that comes along. And to do that is not something we are going to allow or justify.
Which is why you need a policy, but you don't need to have a policy that is a complete ban.
No, I haven't heard that suggested by anyone.
Dave?
Yeah. Sarah?
May I speak? I can't view this, so I don't know if someone else is trying to speak.
No.
Thank you. I guess I have what I think is a two-part question, Monica, and I'm hoping you can help me. I don't remember back in March 4th, you said you had said in an email that you wanted to put a policy together regarding the Ukrainian flag flying. I guess I don't remember any discussion. Now, I've been on the board for almost 3 years now, having any discussion before about a flag policy, so I guess it took me by surprise a bit. But I guess my question is, has there been other discussions, in your office or such about complaints? And I guess what I want to understand is, have there been complaints about the pride flag? Have there been complaints about the Ukrainian flag or other flags that we've flown? Because I haven't heard any. And so I just need to understand, why are we doing this now? Have there been problems? Have there been concerns?
Okay. I appreciate all of the Pride people coming out tonight and joining in this discussion, but this really has nothing to do with the Pride flag. This action was generated by a resident who came forward and wanted to fly the Ukrainian flag. and asked me personally to order the flying of this flag. I reached out to my Board of Selectmen and said, I'm not comfortable making this decision on my own, because once you make that decision on okaying a flag to fly, then suddenly you have all kinds of other decisions. For instance, for the Ukrainians, how do you determine when to take that flag down? What do you do when June rolls around and the Ukrainian war is still going on? What do you say to Dan when he wants to fly his flag, or the Ukrainian people when they want to keep the flag up? How do you determine that? You know how you determine that? You determine it with a policy. And I don't want to sit in the First Selectman's office and make this decision on my own. I want a flag policy that's generated by our Board of Selectmen, having full buy-in there. So I appreciate the Pride people coming out, and I can see where you would feel that this was somehow, targeted for you, but you couldn't be more wrong. This came about because personally I was put in a situation where I had to make a really hard call. And what I ended up doing was speaking with the resident and saying, we have a Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow night. I think it would be terrific to offer some financial, maybe some material help, whether it's supplies or whether it's financial aid, to help address this situation. But that is what made me realize we needed to have a flag policy. It's the fair thing to do for town. The Supreme Court case puts us in another situation where if we don't have a flag policy and somebody comes forward and wants to fly something at Town Hall that the majority of us, the vast majority, would find extremely offensive, saying no to that is problematic. And you might think that crazy things don't happen in Darien. Well, they do. They do. We've had things happen in Town Hall that are very uncomfortable. So the bottom line is we need a flag policy. We need to think it through carefully, but we do need to address this. So I think that Wayne has provided some information for us to take a look at, and I think I don't want to go even too far down the line without having Sarah here in person, because a conversation in person is a lot different than on the phone. But Sarah, to your question, I hope I answered it. And that's what I have to say.
I appreciate the response. I guess a policy is such where a request comes before the board and the board is able to vote on it. And I feel that this board is able to vote on these requests that come off on a one-off basis. This isn't a policy, this is a ban. Thank you.
Yep. This is a draft of a policy, okay? Just like we had a draft of our mission statement, this is a draft. This isn't something that we're going to accomplish in one evening. And I'm sure you all can understand that. Dan, when you drafted your pride, I'm sure you have a pride statement, right? I'm sure they took a little while to come together. That's what we're here to do. So having your voice here is very, very helpful. Having Wayne explain things, it's very, very helpful. I asked Mike to look into this, and he did a terrific job. Now it's our job to do our work, to craft a policy that will make sense for our town. Okay? So what I'm going to ask is that we table this until we are ready to bring it forward and have continue the discussion. Do I have a motion to table? John moves. Marcy seconds. Mike third. Sarah, are you in favor?
Tabling it?
Yes.
I mean, in other words, having a discussion at a later date?
Correct.
Sure.
Okay. Unanimous. All right. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is to discuss, thank you, Wayne, to discuss and take action on a request to transfer $8,127 to property insurance, fiscal 22. Kate's going to explain this transfer request. Thank you again for all of you for joining us.
Okay, this one, I hope it's pretty simple. In years past, we were unable to purchase flood insurance for the Weed Beach bathhouse building. It had to do with information that we did not have available to provide.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah.
You know what, everyone, we're still in a meeting and we're still being filmed. Thank you again for joining us. Bye, Dan.
They're on the stairs. All right, so we were unable to purchase flood insurance for the Wee Beach bathhouse. And actually, this does say, it says Pear Tree, but it was Wee Beach. The regulations changed, and we were presented with an opportunity to purchase the flood insurance, so we took it. So it had not been anticipated in the budget when we prepared it, so we need a transfer in order to fund that purchase. This is a fiscal 22 purchase. The fiscal 23 budget does include it.
And it's a 1 year?
It's a 1 year policy, yeah.
Okay.
Start of the policy is when?
The start of the policy was in fiscal 22.
Oh, so it's covered this year, we just
Yeah.
need to fund it, okay.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to get it because they just didn't?
You know, it had to do with having certification of maps in our elevation levels, which in the past they required us to have. We didn't need to do that anymore. Not sure what changed, but when they said we could do it, I just jumped out and said, let's get the insurance.
Okay, good job. Any other questions?
What's your decision-making trade-off between self-insuring and actually buying insurance like this? I mean, the reality is we didn't have insurance for a while. And what's the coverage for this, right? I mean, what do we get for that premium?
The amount of coverage, I don't know that off the top of my head, but we have an agent that we hire to evaluate these things for us. And it was their recommendation. They were the ones who found that we could get it. And it was their recommendation that we should purchase the insurance.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mike?
No,
Okay.
it's pretty clear.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the request to transfer $8,127 to property insurance for fiscal 22? Mike moves. John seconds. All in favor? Sarah?
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the appointment of a member to the Youth Commission for term expiring on March 31st of 25. May I have a motion to approve the appointment of Danielle Passoni to the Youth Commission for a term expiring March 31st of 2025? Mike moves. John seconds. Sarah?
All in favor?
Sure.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the reappointment of a member to the Architectural Review Board for a term expiring on June 30th of 24, and we're going to take this up at our next meeting. Item number 6 is reappointment of Town Historian for a term expiring March 31st of 23. May I have a motion to approve the reappointment of Marion Castell as Town Historian for a term expiring on March 31st, 23. Mike moves. John seconds. All in favor? Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous. All right, next item on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes of the August 8th, 22 regular meeting. Any edits, deletions, changes? Seeing none. Sarah, do you have any?
Yes. No changes.
Okay. May I have a
Make a
motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I think Sarah just made the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah moves, John seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Next item is to review and approve the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 special meeting. May I have, are there any edits, deletions, corrections? Sarah?
No.
Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve? Mike moves, John seconds, Sarah?
All in favor.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay. All right. Okay. Next item on the agenda is agenda review. Are there any topics that board members would like to see on a future agenda?
We've talked about getting a more detailed update on the Palmer situation. That's something we'll sometime in the fall.
I'm working on that.
Okay.
How about the what's happening with flood.
Okay.
Yeah, if we
Okay.
can get an update from
Sure.
Ed on some of the projects that they've been working on. And how
Right,
things are planning.
we are doing some very serious updating, so that is
Okay.
great, very timely.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's going to be at your September meeting on solid waste fees, so that might be a good time, September 12th.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Mike moves, John seconds. Sarah, all in favor?
Favor, yes.
Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Safe travels.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, for joining us.